Our speakers for this afternoon is Jay Olas, our founder and CEO. And he has extensive experience as a CFO and co-founder of various Southeast Asian startups, and has a proven track record of scaling fast-growing startups and established tech companies such as Gcash, PayMongo, and MoneyMax. Prior to One CFO, Jay served as the head of finance of Hypen Group, a leading Southeast Asian financial management platform, now listed on Nasdaq as Money Hero Group. Together with Jay this afternoon is Belle Villahermosa. She's our finance manager at One CFO. She brings a wealth of experience in taxation, financial accounting and reporting, external audit, and management reporting. She's skilled at transforming complex data into actionable insights, working with companies like PwC, SBI Global, and Incorp. Prior to joining One CFO, Belle was an advisory manager for technology consulting at KPMG. She's also a go-to resource person and speaker in various accounting and taxation seminars throughout the country through Finance PH.
First of all, thank you so much, Marik, for that introduction. My topic will be revolving around this, how to make use of these audit findings to further grow the business. And as we all know, we've just gone through the tax season, the audits, and I'm sure I'm looking at the audience right now. There are some accountants here, some business owners, some startup founders. I'm sure that you can all relate to the discussions that we will be having today. So I'll try to make this really quick and kind of laymanized, because I know accounting, taxation, and general finance, especially corporate finance topics, these are somewhat technical, and we will try to laymanize it and simplify it for you for a better understanding, so you can make sense of how you're going to use that to your company later on. So first off, we're going to discuss these topics. So we're going to revisit tax and audit season process and timeline, the myths and misconceptions about audits in general, what are the common audit findings, and how to convert those findings to growth strategies for your business. Yes, these are actually a source of business strategies that you can make use of in order for you to build and grow your business. And last but definitely not the least, how to implement those recommendations after the audit that is in line with how you're going to approach in terms of your strategy for your business, using those audit findings as a weapon for you to really grow your business further. So first things first, the first topic is we're going to discuss the typical audit timeline. So as we all know, the audit starts with an auditor appointment, right? When you say an auditor appointment, this is not just a very simple undertaking. This requires a board approval. In most bylaws of the companies, the selection and also the approval of who to engage as auditor is within the purview of the board and its shareholders. So, and usually the auditor appointment happens ideally before the year end. Why? Because when you try to look for and approach or maybe engage an auditor, say after December of any given year, it's kind of late already. Why? Because especially if you're a medium-sized or kind of large companies, most of the time you're going to get auditors that are of similar size. It's super hard for you to get a slot from them at that time. Why? Because most of their audit staff has already been given clients and deployments. So that's why I always advise business owners, founders, that hey, if you really want to get your audit started, the start should be actually before the year end happens. It can be November, it can be December. You have to engage your board and the selection of an auditor, so that come say year end, which is normally happens January of the subsequent year, then it should be smooth sailing na. Okay. Next is the audit planning. So once you have engaged an auditor, talk to them, agree kayo sa price and all, they will be having an audit planning with you. So they will be understanding your business, especially for first year audits, and then definitely going to understand what are the risky areas of your business or the areas that you want to focus them on. because sometimes auditors, oh, well, not sometimes, most of the time auditors ask management and the board to basically identify, or if there will be some focus areas that they would like to deep dive further, no, as they do the audit. Next is interim audit, no, particularly for bigger companies that has so many transactions and has early deadlines. When you say early deadlines, particularly for US listed companies, they have a very early deadline in the US SEC kasi. So the tendencies are they do the audit, they do perform an interim audit, which basically catches, say, up to October or up to December, November transactions, January to October, January to December, January to September. So that the remaining months, yun na lang yung i-audit nila pagdating ng year-end audit. Yun naman yung next, no? Yung year-end audit proper. So year-end audit proper usually definitely, I mean, starts January, when after the year-end books are closed, and basically the finance and accounting team can now accommodate the auditors, because as we all know, by January of every year, there's so many deadlines that we have to attend to. We have to comply as finance people. So there are taxes, there are also business permits and renewals and things like that. And sometimes if you're part of a bigger group of companies, there are reporting packages that you have to fill out and send to your head office or your parent company, you know. And sometimes the deadline is also January or maybe minsan February, because those guys also need to consolidate and report to the regulators where they are located. Okay. So year audit proper, hindi pa natatapos dyan, because the next is, of course, everything has to, every business has to file taxes. So there's now this ITR filing. For calendar year companies, it's April 15 of every year. That's why yung nga, kakatapos lang ng audit, kakatapos lang ng tax season natin. So I'm sure you have, you can relate fully to the April 15 timeline. And last but definitely not the least, SDS is the SEC filing. So after the BIR, there's now this deadline with the SEC, depending on the last digit, no, of the SEC registration number. So normally this spans from May to June or July, something like that, no? At least yung 2024 SEC filing deadlines. But of course, you can file earlier, the better, di ba? So yun. So in short, what we're trying to say here is that actually the audit itself, it's not kumbaga, it's not quick. It's actually a 6 to 8 months process. Okay, 6 to 8 months process that finance teams, your finance and accounting teams are really they really have to work on this. Lots of preparations, lots of back and forth with your auditors, lots of scheduled preparations, reconciliations before we finally agree on how much tax to pay by April 15. What are the final balances we're going to report to our parent companies, and of course the SEC filing deadline with the AFS SEC deadline. So yeah, so that's about it, no? So it's hindi pala ganun kadali. Matagal talaga siya. That's why we have to take this seriously. Now, the problem with most of us here in the Philippines is that there are certain myths and misconceptions about the audit. So what I've shown earlier, just the process and the timeline. But what I want us to really focus on is this, the myths and misconceptions about the audit, no? So the first misconception, audit is just a one-time event. So pinakita natin kanina, that's not really a one-time event. It's months, no? Ang ginugugol niya, kumbaga. So the reality is it's an ongoing and rolling over event that lasts from 2 months to almost 1 year. Now, if you have experience, probably auditors that say, okay, no, I can just audit that in just 1 day or 2 days. For less transactions, that's doable, no? But if you're a company with transactions talaga for full year, most of the time it's not something that can be done in few days time or even weeks. So tumatagal talaga ng month or 2 months. Ayan, pinakamabilis na yun. Second, audit is a concern of the finance team only. So that's actually a myth because audit is a collective undertaking and finance and accounting is just basically there to coordinate all the activities on behalf of the company. They have the records, they have the schedules, they have the supporting documents. But finance, just like, I mean, any finance of any company is basically sila lang yung central repository ng lahat ng transactions, no? So if you would note, if there are, for the business owners here, CEOs here in this webinar, you would note that if there are questions from the auditors that the finance team cannot answer, they tend to go to you or to other personnel within the company to help them resolve the query of or questions of the auditor because it's really a collective undertaking. Tax does not affect the operations of the company. So most of the time they're thinking that, oh, April 15 is just the finance team that's super busy. No, tax is actually a major consideration in the operations of any company. So that's why in the beginning, before a company is incorporated, it's very important that the board and the top management team of these companies do perform enough strategic tax planning, how they can best optimize taxes, where they can save taxes. No, sometimes on the corporate structuring itself, it's already a way to optimize yung taxes or minimize taxes as much as possible. Again, this is not just a financing, but it has something to do also with your operations. I can fully rely on my auditor to detect fraud or theft in my company. The answer is no, because audit only provides reasonable assurance. It is not an undertaking that is designed to uncover fraud. Okay, so there many times naririnig ko yan, especially for some of our mga nagko-consult sa amin ng mga business owners. Oh, hindi nakita yan ng auditor ko, ba't ganun? Feeling ko may fraud dito, but hindi niya nakikita. Well, the audit procedures kasi are not really, external audit procedures are not really designed for that. There are different other types of audit that are actually for that. For example, when I was still an auditor, I did some forensic and fraud audit, no? So that was really designed for that, no? Ayun. FS preparation is the job of the auditor. Again, no. It's just so happen na mababait yung mga auditor. But actually, the FS preparation or drafting, that's actually responsibility of the management, no? It's the job of the company. The auditor just audits it. So lahat ng laman ng FS natin is actually our responsibility. That's what we're saying here. Even the preparation itself, how do we want to present the financials of our company to the regulators, to the public in general, to the shareholders, and even to the prospect investors. So hindi alam ni auditor yun. Tayo yung magsasabi nun sa kanila. Okay? Audit findings impacts only the finances of the company. Again, it's a big no-no because audit findings, again, impact the overall operations and the strategy of the company. And I will be sharing you how and why on the next slides. So these are some of the common audit findings and how are we going to turn them to audit strategies. First, sorry, medyo madami-dami to. Let's start with cash. So what we have noted for small and mid-sized companies is that there are no bank reconciliations or if there are bank reconciliations being done, it's not being done timely and properly. Actually, bank reconciliation is a control mechanism to ensure completeness of all the cash transactions. By doing that, it definitely is the starting point for better budgeting. Why? Because it entails cash. It ensures that your cash are properly stated and properly reflected in your balance sheet, and it flows through to your cash flow statement. So historically, what I'm sharing here is the prospective, your budgets, your forecast moving forward. No? And that is your role as a business owner to ensure that you have available cash to sustain and maintain your operation. So kung mali na yung cash mo because hindi nagagawa ng tama yung bank reconciliations, wala na. No? Ayun. So accounts receivable naman. So what we have noted is that this is very common, long outstanding receivables. Kasi minsan inactive na yung customer, hindi na ma-reach yung customer, or hindi naglalagay ng provision for bad debts yung company or even write-off. Because they're saying na, hindi, baka makolekta pa yan. No? So may mga false hopes na ganun. But in reality, it's by doing a write-off or what do you call this, recognizing a provision can actually improve your cash flow. How? Because it gives you the signal how much really is your expected cash inflow. Kung hindi ka na mag-expect. Kasi kung wala na, parang ano yan, parang, ano dito? Parang yung boyfriend or girlfriend mo lang yan na hindi mo na nararamdaman yung pagmamahal sa'yo. So mag-expect ka pa ba, di ba? You have to adjust na, you have to move on na. Ganun din sa cash flow basically. It gives you the signal for the need for capital, whether it's through debt or equity. As it can also help you redefine. Kasi syempre may listahan ka. Sino ba yung mga hindi nagbabayad sa akin? It might be also an indicator or a source of truth for you to redefine what is your ideal customer profile really is. And that will help you on your future sales strategies, be it in your target or go-to-market strategy, your pricing, and also on your acquisition cost strategies overall. Yun. Inventories naman, so most of the time what we have seen is that no inventory reconciliation, no physical count yung iba. Yung iba naman may recon, may physical count, but there's no proper inventory management systems that can actually help them on costing as well. So how to turn it in those findings into strategy? Actually, if you don't have really good inventory management, that is a big problem to your business. What it says is that you, as a business owner or as management of the company, you are not really maximizing the product that you are selling. Why? How did I say that? Because una-una, kung mali yung costing, malamang mali na rin yung pricing mo. Kung walang physical count or walang reconciliation, malamang akala mo may binibenta ka pa pero out of stock ka na pala. So it's an opportunity, no? Lost opportunity, lost benta. And definitely, it will strain the relationship, no? Mo with your client or even your customers. No? May binibenta ka pa pala pero wala na. It's just because nobody's reconciling it or nobody is actually putting it in the inventory management systems and managing it there. If you have one, pero kung wala, yun, mas malaking problema yun. Okay. And sometimes this also goes through even at the procurement level, at the vendor management. So yun. So PPE, property, plant, and equipment. Just like inventory, what we have noted is that yun nga, common findings, walang count, no reconciliation. There are also cash or PPE cash na nakatali sa PPE, no? Because idle yung PPE, missing PPE items, and non-capitalization of intangibles. So para sa mga startup founders dito, mga tech founders, no? Especially for tech companies kasi to. So what we have noted, there's so many things that you can make use of just by fixing your property, plant, and equipment in your balance sheet. Number one, it can definitely help increase the net worth of your business by, kasi PPN, it's an investment activity, no, in your business. So once it solidifies and strengthens the balance sheet, in short, so therefore, it helps the increase of your net equity or your net worth as a company. And then if you have idle PPE items, aside from it really occupies space, there's an opportunity cost there. There's also cash that can be freed up if you sell that item of PPE, for example, that you can make use to invest further in the growth of your company or for working capital requirements then. For tech companies naman, so non-capitalist especially, that's why I always say na kahit maliit ka pa lang, no, it's okay to elect adoption of full IFRS so you can capitalize some of your capitalizable items of PPE because as a tech company, you're always should be always ready for due diligence with your investors. And your investors are investing in your technology, in yourself, as a team, and of course they want to see the product. And how can you tell them that you have a product if they can find it in your balance sheet? Di ba? So I've seen a lot of tech companies na hinahanap ko nasa yung capitalization ng app na ginawa mo. Wala. So when we talk to investors, that's always the first thing that they ask. Well, nasa na yun? Nasa na yung i-investan ko? So sayang naman if you don't have that. Okay. Yeah, accruals and other liabilities. So this is the other ano naman, kung kanina accounts receivable, ngayon yung mga liabilities. Hindi na ma-identify kung kanino yung babayaran yung utang. Second one is Probably because meron din mga misapplication ng subsequent payments. Kumbaga, yung bayad kay A, napunta sa bayad kay B kasi magkapareho sila ng amount and whatnot, di ba? Especially kung pertaining ito sa mga long outstanding liabilities from the past. So this is an indication that you have to do something, no? Not just in terms of your managing your aging of inventories, liabilities, but or your payees, no, or vendors, but this can be a symptom of a bigger issue. Like for example, there might be an issue na on your procure to pay process pala. So as we all know, this is a tip lang guys, no? Mas maraming fraud na nangyayari sa procure to pay process as compared to inventory. Kasi nandito yung opportunity to get cash. So, bantayan yung maigi to. So, for me, itong kung maisipin, long outstanding liabilities. Baka kaya nagre-recognize ng long outstanding liability kasi sa iba pala napunta yung payment. Di ba? So, it's this finding, by resolving this finding, can enhance your vendor management, procure to pay process, which of course significantly improves your cash flow and also your internal control um, across the company. Revenue naman. So revenue, most of the time, I guess because a lot of SMEs and startups, they tend to recognize revenue on a cash basis. But I mean, that's okay. But the problem now is that, of course, accounting standards say it should be accrual basis, no? And that's the reality, no? It should always be an accrual basis because by doing accrual basis of revenue recognition, you can see the real picture. Nasaan na ba yung business mo in terms of your sales, in terms of revenue, and especially for startups, most of you guys are being valued in terms of multiples of your revenue. So imagine mo kung cash basis ka lang, na undervalue ka pala, pwedeng gano'n, no? Unlike kapag accrual basis ka, mas marami pala talaga yung totoong revenue mo. Di mas okay 'yon, di ba? And definitely, by doing accrual basis, it can also significantly increase your gross profit and your bottom line or your net income. Why? Because most of the time, this acknowledges or recognizes those that are, in terms of, if you're a business selling goods, no, nabenta mo na-deliver mo na yung ownership, hindi pa lang nababayaran, benta mo na yon. So may accounts receivable ka lang. Likewise, for services, na-deliver mo na kahit actually hindi ka pa nag-invoice basta natapos na yung earning recognition process, you can recognize na on accrual basis yung revenue. So, and the most recently, later on, i-discuss ni Bel, after ko, yung EOPT law, and you would note that there are also different changes that favors now, in our tax law, that favors now the use of accrual basis as compared to cash basis. So the combination of both, lagay ko dito, significantly will improve your cash flow that you can use to invest further on your growth. Payroll, okay. Okay, alam natin merong mga tinatawag na non-taxable compensation and benefits, and we do this to attract talents, no? The problem here is that come audit time, when auditors ask, okay, can you give us a breakdown of those deemed non-taxable? So they say, oh, de minimis yan. Yeah, sure, these are de minimis benefits, pero the law only provided a certain list of what are the clearly de minimis benefits and how much is the ceiling for each. So hindi na ibibigay yon, hindi clear. So dapat meron kang maano na gano'n. Kasi by having clarity on really what are your non-taxable compensation benefits, naka-breakdown, you help now your HR side of things, no, your HR department, giving them a leg room to package job offers with greater flexibility in order for you to attract great talents. So hindi yan lagi labanan ng okay, pataasan ng basic, no, hindi. So there might be some areas, no, that or leg room na kailangan lang to give your HR department, and it all starts with having clarity kung ano-ano ba yung mga deemed non-taxable na yon. Okay. Now, on the processing of payroll, we also noted certain findings here that there are mano-mano na ginagawa yung payroll. It's just in a Google sheet or an Excel file, and sometimes the changes in the in the tax brackets or the tax law in general, and also yung mga government contribution schedules late na update or hindi na update, causing errors and adjustment pagdating sa dulo pag nag-annualization na. Kaya minsan yung empleyado magulat siya, ay, tax payable pa pala ako. Or maganda sana kung tax refund, no? Favorable yun sa empleyado. But the ideal scenario is that there would be no tax refund or tax payable. Sakto yung tax na wini-withheld natin sa mga empleyado at binabayaran natin kay BIR. So, one way to do that is, probably it's something that you might want to look into so that you can free up your HR department to do more meaningful tasks is by outsourcing it or making or availing of a software package, that are available out there. Ang dami naman nila. So, para ma-free up, yung ano ninyo. And as we all know, in every company, the best asset is always its people. So you can, parang free up yung mga nitty-gritty administrative tasks, and you can focus on really strategic HR matters that can drive further your business. Rent, so a cash accrual basis similarly, you know that the latest accounting standards require straight lining of this expense. So which is good, particularly for us CEOs, no? Kasi before, part siya yung rent expense is part ng OPEX line. Because of the straight lining, there's now this amortization. Bumababa siya dun sa below the EBITDA line. And if you're a company, maybe a mature company, for example, you're now looking for an exit, you're talking to private equity guys or a potential acquirer, you're profitable. Most of the time, your EBITDA will be applied with a multiple, and that's going to be your valuation. So, meaning to say, kung yung before, rent expense mo na nasa OPEX na part ng EBITDA, hindi na siya part ng EBITDA ngayon kasi nasa ilalim na siya. So it increases your EBITDA and also increases potentially the value of your company. That's what we're saying here. Last but not the least are the two items, and I will let Belle explain later on sa talk niya about these two. So the controversial VAT and income tax, no? May mga under declaration. Yung iba naman overpayment, no? Pero most of the time less yung mga dinideclare for VAT purposes. And as entrepreneurs, we do understand that we want to save on taxes. Pero if you come to think of it, for me, putting on my CFO hat, under declaration of your VAT and income tax says something about your cash management in the company, which hinders your growth. Why? But number one, hindi naman yan lumalabas sa P&L mo eh. Diba? It's a parang transferable tax yan that you can shift to your customers. No? They pay that as part of the invoice, but it's not actually part of your revenue. So dapat tinatabi mo na yan agad, no? Before mo bayaran si BIR at the collection pa lang na alam mo na okay, yung cash ko na nasa bangko na to, this is not really mine. Some of these are actually for the BIR, for the regulators like SSS, PhilHealth in case of the payroll kanina. So kailangan i-manage mo ng maayos yun. So say likewise, no, for the income tax. Actually, income tax naman is combination na rin ng mga from your revenue down to your expenses. And this is being annualized din naman, no, pag come year end. So okay lang, you probably didn't pay quarterly ng may over ka, but at the end of each year, during the audits, you really have to have the correct calculation of your income tax. And if you have done proper cash management, as I mentioned kanina, hindi mo dapat kinatatakutan yung pagbabayad ng income tax. Kasi ang goal mo, magbayad ka ng tax. Hindi ka magbabayad ng tax. Kasi yung mga hindi nagbabayad ng tax, yun yung mga loss-making companies. And you want to grow eh. So as you grow your business, dapat lang nagbabayad ka ng tax, di ba? So yun. So in conclusion, as we all know, growth can be organic or inorganic, but it always requires cash or other resources, other form of assets. It can be tangible, intangible even. No? And these audit findings actually is a gold mine of potential strategies for your business, particularly in cash flow management, because it's the fuel nga for you to grow. So thus, implementing audit findings with the end in mind of improving your cash flow or making your business investment ready. So that should be your shift now in mindset, no, after this webinar. Ayan. So basically, so how are you going to implement those, no? Isingit ko lang dito. So we can help you naman with that in One CFO. So in One CFO, we actually work after audits or even during audits. We work with your auditors, we work with your management team and the board by performing or doing CFO services either on a retainer or on a project-based basis through a combination of our technology in professional services. In fact, we just launched an app like this first quarter, the One CFO web app. It's your online finance department. So all the things that I have mentioned kanina when it comes to real-time monitoring your cash burn, real-time monitoring your budget against your actuals, your taxes can be now be done through the One CFO web app. So yeah. So if you're interested, mag-register lang po kayo and then we'll reach out to you for this. So just to share with you some other resources, because we all know we just don't have 1 hour for in this webinar, no? But we do have One CFO Finance Resources Hub in our website. So you can just go there, and there's a whole bunch of literature available there for you to grow your business, help you grow your business. We also have a YouTube channel. We have the season 1 of One podcast. Season 2 will be out soon. So antabay lang po tayo dun. So yun. So thank you. If you have questions or if you want to talk to me, this is my email. Here's my Viber or WhatsApp. So feel free to message me via email or via Viber or WhatsApp. Thank you so much.
All right. So that was a very insightful talk, Sir Jay, about, of course, everything that you need to know, no? In general, about audit and what to do in terms of the audit findings from your auditors. So on my part, these are really more into your taxation naman, no? So we will focus more on your tax. So part of your audit, of course, is your ITR filing, which already mentioned ni Sir Jay kanina. Okay, so the part of your ITR planning, so that is ITR filing rather, no? So at the end of the audit, most likely you will know in terms of taxation, ano yung mga kailangan nating bantayan. And of course, you can already have a gauge on what are the things that might lower your taxes. And this is always one of the things that as a tax practitioner na tinatanong, paano pa mabawasan ang mga babayaran kay BIR, no? And as Jay mentioned, the goal is really for you to pay your taxes. And for compliance sake, the most important, or rather the best way to lower your taxes is for you to comply with our tax laws. Bakit? Sasabihin nyo, kailangan ba magdagdag ng mga resibo, expenses, and everything? Take note, those ways will only, diba? It will only add up to a tax exposure that at the end of the day, hindi mo alam. In the long run, magagastusan ka pa. Kasi kung ma-check ka ni BIR, you're not ready, you're not compliant, then most of the time, of course, you really have assessments. So, nandyan na yung mga ating mga charges na tinatawag. So, one of the things that we need is really tax planning. And usually, this is also with the help or with the aid of your auditors as a result of the audit that they've conducted. So, it's not just for your financials, but also considering your taxes. Kasi nga, we are filing also for your income tax return. So, considering the period, no? If you can recall kanina, ano yung period that you are filing your ITR. So, April 15, no? Most companies, they file their calendar year, they file on April 15. And after that, around May, that is the time for the first quarter. So, in between, you have a timeline to do the tax planning. But even before that, if you already have as an established finance, you can already do tax planning at the beginning of the year pa lang, using the figures that you have, even if it's a tentative, no, or unaudited na tinatawag natin na financials, just to have a gauge on what our finances will look like. And this is already also considered when you do budgeting, no? So in all these aspects, tax is always considered. And again, the reason why, because most of the businesses, they want to be compliant, and of course, they want to ensure that they are able to calculate or the best possible tax calculation for them will give them that compliance, plus at the same time leverage on the tax laws, right? So we use your financials. So we will focus also on the recent tax laws that we had. So these are only just give you a general idea, no, on what were the recent changes. So alam naman nating lahat na ang ating tax code, okay, ang nagsisilbing gabay, no, nating lahat in terms of complying. So si BIR, they are the agency na mandated na mag-administer, no, that to make sure that everybody complies with our tax laws. But at the end of the day, sabi nga natin, minsan mga maririnig mo, ay iba yung sinasabi ng RDO na to. So if you have already have that experience, no, we always go back. Ano sinasabi sa batas? Diba? And of course, si BIR, palagi yan nagpapalabas ng kanilang mga provisions na tinatawag. So we have that mga revenue regulations, mga memorandums that is always available in their website to help us, to aid us kung paano nila ipapatupad yung mga batas na of course na aprobahan sa ating Kongreso and of course inapproved ng Presidente. So in 2018, we had the train law, and this was focused more on the individual taxation. But of course, since yung individual taxation natin, there's a fine line or a thin line lang naman between taxation ng individuals and ng business. So nagkataon din that there are changes, of course, sa business, no? And take note na yung mga certain provisions sa train law, meron pa din na dumadagdag, no, in the recent years. For example, yung most recent is yung change dun sa rate ng individual taxation, which is there is a change in the calculation ng sa employees withholding tax. And then this one is a create law naman, no, in 2022. So 2021 rather, but there was a provision, no, na may retrospective application. This was for the corporate recovery and tax incentives. Dito nangyari yung change ng income tax rate, corporate. If you can recall, ano yung corporate income tax rate natin before? It was 30%, but because of the create law, it changed to 25%, and there is also another rate, which is the 20%. Of course, there is a certain provision that you can use 20%, no? Okay, so hindi lahat makakagamit ng 20%, but the standard is the 25% income tax rate. And then the most recent, so ngayong taon lang, it's the ease of paying taxes, which will revolve more, and we will talk more about this. So I will just give you a brief idea of what to expect in the coming months, in the coming years, and most likely marami pang changes, no, in relation to these laws na ipapalabas si BIR, considering the provisions on how the taxes, the provisions there will be administered. Okay? So background, this year lang yan, 2024. So there, we have here the kailan siya signed, published, and effectivity, which is January 22, 2024. So basically, the reason why we have this is marami naman ang nagsasabi, no, kung medyo complicated ang taxes sa Pilipinas, not just the calculation, even the filing, no? administrative, ganyan. So this EOPT's aim is really to protect and safeguard yung taxpayer rights and welfare. And then, of course, simplify the tax filings and modernize, which is one of the things na as a tax practitioner also, ito talaga yung gustong-gustong nating magkaroon, no? Na ma-modernize naman, no? Na we can be stepping forward na hindi na yung very manual pa tayo, but rather really digital na, no? Digitalize na yung mga filings natin. So what were the amendments? No, certain amendments here. First, in terms of the classification of taxpayers. So we already have a classification now in terms of basis is the gross sales. Now we have your micro, small, medium, and large. And why is this classification important? Bakit nga ba importante to? Because for the micro and small, the government has a separate na provisions in terms of their capacity to pay, taking into consideration their gross sales. Take note that if you are a VAT registered, standard is hindi ka magpupunta sa micro, small ka agad. Okay? So, for non-VAT, yun yung pwedeng micro. So, regardless of your gross sales, if you are VAT registered, small magsisimula. Okay? So, for micro and small taxpayers, simplified na ang ating ITR, 2 pages. There are also reductions in terms of penalties. 10% for civil penalties, 5% reduction in interest imposed, reduced fine of 500 pesos for failure to file certain information. Our standard is 1,000, no? And reduced compromise penalty rate of 50%. So basically, this will alleviate yung mga micro and small taxpayers talaga natin in terms of course, cash flow. Okay? In relation also to their cash flow, no? Because of their capacity to pay. So, taking into consideration. So, those are the changes for the micro and small. So, for the other classification, it will still remain the same kung ano man yung current natin. Okay? So, we are already can file and pay anywhere. No? Ayaw ba natin yun? Or gusto natin yun? Gusto natin yan. Because sometimes, there are others with the work from anywhere also. Minsan merong nasa QC pa, nasa Makati ka, pero nasa QC yung RDO mo, no? So instead of really going there pa, so you can just file and pay anywhere. Okay? So the removal of the 500 pesos annual registration fee. So 500 pesos na yan, masaya na tayo, no? Kasi taking into consideration talaga din at kung iisipin mo, ba't kailangan ko pa mag-renew ng COR every year? 500 pesos. So added lang talaga siya. So it was removed. Also, the removal of the withholding taxes as a requirement for the deductibility of expenses. So ngayon, it is not part of the requirement already. However, take note that it doesn't mean na hindi ka na magko-comply with our withholding taxes. So if you need to comply with our withholding tax regulation, you need to comply pa rin. Kasi take note, penalty pa rin tayo for non-compliance. Okay? For the timing of withholding, the timing is already when the income has become payable, which is not very different from the before naman. Okay? So the cancellation of your BIR registration is already upon manual or electronic filing of an application for the same. Though we are waiting still for the provisions for this, no, kung paano siya ipapatupad ni BIR. Because currently, it's not easy to cancel your BIR registration. So hopefully with this EOPT, mas maging okay siya, no? Mas mapabilis. And then the preservation of books for a period of 5 years from the 10 years. So 5 years na lang tayo ngayon. But take note, this is from the filing of your taxes or your tax return, and then from the last entry in your books of account. So that's the start of the counting ng 5 years natin. Okay? What else do we have? Of course, the very controversial for value-added tax. So, basically, ito yung medyo pinakamarami. But the first one, the removal ng business style, which itong business style talaga ginugulo ang ulo ng mga karamihan, no? Kasi hindi alam kung ano talaga yung business style na yun. So, wala na siya, no? As a mandatory information. Of course, there's an increase of 500 for the mandatory issuance ng invoice. But take note for VAT, it still remains, regardless of the amount, kapag VAT registered ka, kailangan mag-issue ka ng invoice. Okay? And why am I saying invoice? Because now, regardless if you are a seller of goods or services, sales invoice is our primary document, which means to say that OR is secondary na lang siya. Right? So, actually, recently, no, today lang, there's a provision in relation to, or rather, a regulation, a revenue regulation in relation to the change of documentary from OR to sales invoice na nilabas si BIR. So if you want to know more, no, you might want to consider talking to us also, because, or you want to check the RR itself, it's RR 11-2024. Mainit-init pa. Ngayong araw lang yan, inilabas ni BIR in relation to what are the things that you need to do, no? If you are one of those na OR ang primary, and then you have to go to make yourself na maging sales invoice na ang primary document mo. Anong gagawin mo sa mga OR mo? So you can check out RR 11-2024 in terms of the deadline and what to do, no? And then for the gross sales, since sales invoice na ang basis natin, ang tanong, kailan tayo nag-i-issue ng sales invoice? And this has something to do with your accrual basis of accounting. Okay, so there's an alignment already. And take note, accrual is not new actually. Kasi sa income tax return natin, ang basis na natin is the accrual method. That's why when service-oriented organizations before nagkakaroon ng mga assessment, paraging assessment yung magkaiba yung sales ni VAT sa sales ni ITR. Because the basis ni VAT before for service-oriented is collection. Now, however, since gross sales na siya, hindi na siya gross receipts, then aligned na sila. So it should match already. So how does this? Paano nga ba to? So let's have a simple illustration lang, no? Just so you can understand. So take note again, this is for service-oriented organization, because for seller of goods and services, it remains the same. From the start pa naman, they are really sales invoice. Gross sales naman talaga yung basis for that. However, for service-oriented, it's different. So from cash basis, magiging accrual na tayo. So for example, we have company A, no? Total receivable mo is 1 million. Total collection mo out of the 1 million is 600,000. If we are talking about the before, the EOPT, no? For output VAT, you have to pay 72,000 based on collection. However, because of EOPT, based on gross sales na tayo, ang receivables mo, because that will be the gross sales. Those are the sales invoices, no? That should match the sales invoices that you sent out for the period. So your output VAT now will be 120,000 pesos. So there's a difference. However, take note, sabi ni BIR, no? We will also consider yung inyong collection. Kasi paano nga naman kung hindi ko na-collecta siya? Okay, so very important now that you have to consider the terms. Okay, yung mga net 30 days, net 60 days, kung kailan mo makokolekta yung receivable mo. Why is that important? Because the BIR allows, or rather the law allows, that if a certain receivable is uncollected on your sa next filing mo, then you can reduce your output VAT to the amount ng uncollected receivable mo. So for example, no? Previous quarter, 1 million. Output VAT mo nun is 120,000. So current quarter is the same. Okay? The same yung receivable and output VAT. However, meron kang uncollected na 450,000 from the previous quarter na receivable mo. So 450,000, the output VAT of that is 54. Now, if you are going to file for the current quarter, you can deduct that output VAT from your uncollected. Again, however, take note, pagdating sa BIR, we have to make sure that everything is in order. So the terms, dapat tayo ay ready na yung terms is explicitly nandun, no? Para ma-prove natin na talagang uncollected siya. So it will lessen the output VAT that you will pay for the period. Take note, however, hindi pa dito natin kino-consider yung input VAT naman na portion. So this is really more on your output VAT. So considering that we had a move also on your sales invoices now for your input VAT, so basically, matatanggal na din yung OR as a valid document for claiming. So everything will be sales invoices na or invoices, okay, in general. So for VAT, there was also an introduction of a risk-based classification. So in terms of VAT refund, there's a low, a medium, and a high risk. So for this, if you are classified as low, you are not to be subjected to audit and other verification processes. But take note, of course, there are considerations, no? Kung paano kayo maka-classify. And then, of course, we've mentioned already your output VAT on uncollected receivables as an adjustment to your output VAT for the period. All right. So if you want to know more about those things about to deep dive, no, you can actually just check out with Sir Jay. Binigyan niya kanina yung details niya for further consultation. Okay. For tax refund, okay, of erroneously paid taxes, the BIR now, within 180 days, dapat ma-release yung submission, no? Or rather, ma-release siya upon submission ng complete documents. So, filing of OFWs, if solely derived from abroad ang income, exempted. Authority to print shall be free of charge. And all tax-related provisions is, of course, available in the BIR website. And this one, digitalization of BIR services, which we are very, very, of course, very, very important. And we are really waiting for this one. So hopefully, makonsider natin siya, no? Hopefully, bilisan ni BIR yung pag-digitalize. However, they are actually doing it. And the first one is actually yung electronic invoicing. Though hindi masyadong matunog to currently. But I will just give you an idea, no? Electronic invoicing, which means to say that most likely, almost all businesses will move into a digitalized or computerized accounting system in the future. Specifically, yun nga, e-invoicing na. But currently, in terms of e-invoicing, actually, hindi pa ganun kapulido din yung ni BIR currently, no? This is being rolled out dun sa mga top taxpayers, so pili pa lang sila. But take note, this is something that the government, of course, with the digitalization, most likely moving forward talaga ay magkakaroon ng change. And then also, of course, the recent also at the end of 2023, pinalabas to ni BIR. However, there were certain provisions na nilabas din sila recently in terms of withholding tax on gross remittances by electronic marketplace operators and digital financial services providers to sellers or merchants. So from actually, nung bago pa lang, no, yung mga online, this is actually a very gray area dati na hindi mahanapan ni BIR kung paano niya i-regulate. However, nowadays, because of the rampant or of the change, of course, in technology as well, so the BIR really needs to cope up. So this is one of the ways that they are able to collect. No? But as I've mentioned, there are certain provisions na nilabas si BIR to help out in terms of really how are you going to comply with this recent provisions. And once again, if you want to know more, you can discuss with us, of course. And just to give you a background, no, hindi pa ganun talaga na ilalabas din ni BIR lahat. As I've mentioned a while ago, RR 11-2024 is very, very fresh. And this one is controversial because last May 27, if I'm not mistaken, 2024, pinalabas ni BIR na may deadline dun sa submission ng mga ORs na gagamitin until December 2024 only. However, with RR 11-2024, they totally changed the game 360. You can fully, if you have OR sitting there, a service-oriented organization, VAT registered, may OR pa kayo, you can actually already now, no need to print out a sales invoice, just have it na may stamp, and then you can just, strikes through, yung OR and have it sales invoice. Particularly, of course, the details that you have to comply with in terms of the documentary requirements. Now, until maubos na siya. Yun na ang part ng regulation. So if you want to know more about the recent provisions of your EOPT, you can, of course, if you have your accountants, can consult with them. And if you don't have, you can go to us, to One CFO, to guide you in terms of these recent changes. So that's the end of my session for today. So just a brief and very general in terms of what is up and coming, and the most recent in terms of taxation. So thank you very much, and we are ready for your Q&A.
Is it possible to capitalize outsourced payments in order to develop an app?
If the outsourced payment is for, say, an outsourced labor, the answer to that is yes. Because the benefit from that outsourced labor, or who is benefiting from that outsourced labor, for example, is still the company who owns the IP of the company. Ang kinaibahan lang, instead na nasa payroll mo sila, in-outsource mo. So yung binabayad mo sa kanila, they don't own the IP, that's the assumption. You can capitalize it. But kung ito bang outsource payments na to ay sabihin natin mga SaaS subscriptions, then in that case, say, hindi siya pwede. Pero kung outsourcing talaga siya ng development, like I know there are certain dev houses that helps in-house tech teams in developing their apps, their products, then yes, you can. Actually, in my previous companies, yung na-exit na namin sa Nasdaq, yes, Filipino po ang finance guy noon, tayo po yun. Pumasa naman sa US SEC siya sa listing rules ng Nasdaq yung ginawa kong capitalization doon.
What if we have OR issued for purchases made? Can we just put sales invoice on top of it so that we can claim the input VAT?
If it's from your purchases, then you have to go to who issued that. Diba? And take note, we have to consider also the timing. Kasi very recent lang yung change natin, ng provisions ni BIR. So you have to also check kailan nyo ba siya na-receive? Ano yung period? Kasi baka hindi pa naman siya covered. So it will be still part of the, yung dati pa natin na law on that. So, but now, if it's not, if it's covered already, of course, the best way is for you to coordinate with the vendor. Kasi baka ngayon, hindi magkatugma. Okay? Take note, hindi magkatugma yung nasa inyo na document at yung nasa kanila. And it's very important, lalo na pag BIR, kasi sometimes si BIR does audit in parallel. Take note, kaya tayo may mga SLSP, mga ganyan, na mga submission, because the BIR also has ways, okay, for you to validate, to confirm. So most of the time, I really suggest don't do it on your own. Okay? If you can contact the vendor, contact the vendor. Okay? Para sila ang maitama nila, Kasi tax exposure siya kung kayo lang yung gagawa. Okay? So that's my take on it.
Belle, regarding the online withholding tax, is it still going to be effective starting July, or is there another news that came out that it will be extended again?
It's actually effective already, no?
Yeah.
Medyo may mga inaano na lang may pinapolish lang si BIR, but it's already effective. Meron lang siya mga pinapolish in terms of the provisions, in terms of the administration.
Yung
But it doesn't
IRR.
mean,
Oo.
pero it doesn't mean na hindi pa. So, the compliance should be in place already as well na. So, hindi naman siya yung tipong, totally status quo. Hindi naman siya ganun. So, it should be in place na rin naman talaga.
And just to add on that, the implementation or the execution of those withholding taxes, for example, the new law requires, most of the time, kung meron kang, say, banko na provider, if you're a fintech company or if you're a marketplace that basically also pass through these banks, no, they would let you know na, hey, subject na kami sa ganito. So, starting ganitong date, we will be withholding, magkano yun? 0.5% say of the transaction
Yes.
value, mga ganun, yung gross value. So, please expect na mababawasan yung remittance namin sa inyo. Ganyan. So, and syempre, may kabangga dapat yun na withholding tax certificate. So, I've seen that certain banks who has informed their clients already about that. There are also some e-commerce marketplaces and then issue na rin ng mga clarifications or memo to their clients about that. So sila yung mag-ano nun. They normally just require to tell you for you to tell them pala na sabihan mo nga ako kung pasok ka ba doon sa threshold na nire-require o hindi. Kung hindi, bigyan mo ako ng affidavit or declaration mo na ang sales mo overall is ganito lang. So therefore, hindi ka dapat masubject sa ganito. Pero actually, ako, ang insight ko doon is that, of course, you're small right now. Pwede mong sabihin na hindi ka pa subject doon. Pero mag-grow ka rin later on eh. So, para hindi ka na ma-hassle on the changes, mga administrative and legal paperworks later on, i-subject mo na yung sarili mo na ngayon. It's good to have naman para hindi rin madi-disrupt yung cash flow mo later on. Sige. May question ulit si Webind. We have RM purchases from foreign suppliers and we pay to Telegraph and we did not withhold. Well, all it was assessed. How can we go about it? Pare, usap tayo. Mukhang assessment na yung pinag-usapan natin. So yun, let's discuss. So yeah, actually in relation to this, very good na-mention to ni Boss Wibay, no? Kasi meron ng DIB VAT na rin on even foreign purchases.
Correct.
So last, very recent na RMC, Eklabu, nakalimutan ko yung number. So, basta yun. So, kaya ngayon, ang tip ko, kung meron kayong mga holding company sa labas ng bansa, yung mga Amazon subscription nyo and other subscriptions, ipadaan nyo na doon para hindi masubject sa DIB 12% VAT and withholding ni BIR. So, may mga clients kami ngayon na tinatransfer na namin yung mga nila ganun. Kasi, wala, even, which is ang weird nga, di ba? Parang, okay, magbabayad, wala namang paggagamitan yung withholding na yun. Kung mag-withhold ako kay Amazon, halimbawa, di ba? So, this is a very gray area, actually. And, but BIR being the BIR, they will still, unless meron talagang magpoprotesta, kumbaga, on the implementation, they will still go with this. And expect mo na to na magiging part talaga ng assessment. So yun. So to make the long story short, kung meron kang holding sa labas, doon mo na lang ipadaan yung mga purchases and payments ng mga to. So yun. I'll give again the floor to you, Mari.
Thank you, Jay. Do we have other questions from the group? So I guess there are no more questions from the audience or the participants. So we would like to thank everyone who joined us this afternoon. I hope we were able to get some insights, clarifications, and strategies on how to improve your tax and audit in the coming year. We thank Jay and Belle for all their insights, and for all the participants, thank you. Please don't forget to follow us in Facebook, YouTube. As Jay mentioned, we will have our next season for our podcast soon. So please wait for that, and then follow us in Facebook and LinkedIn. And all our resources are in our website. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us, and we'll see you again in our next webinar.